So you say you're having problems selling hockey cards these days. Well, guess what, people? Maybe the problem isn't the site. Maybe the problem isn't the cards. Maybe the problem is you. Welcome, everyone, to the Top Shelf Cookie Sniper Hockey Card Podcast. Did you miss me?
Welcome to the Top Shelf Cookie Sniper Hockey Card Podcast. And enjoy the show.
That's right. You're here to listen to me talk about hockey cards and some different financial aspects when it comes to hockey cards. The intro was just a little taste of something we're going to talk about in today's episode. Before we get into that, I have some news that I'd like to share with everybody. I'm very excited to announce that I will be providing some content, I guess you could say, or just contributing to some content to the best hockey card platform that's on the internet today. You don't know what that is? Kind of surprised if you don't. I've been asked to help contribute to the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is, and I can't believe I have to even give you an explanation, but the Hockey Cards Gong Show is the best place on the internet when it comes to hockey card content. They have a number of great people on that platform. They share a lot of great information. It's just a great site. I listen to them regularly along with their sub-sites or their sub-channels, and it's just something that I truly enjoy listening to. The CEO of the platform, Josh, who I've known for a long time now, reached out to me after the first episode and said, hey, if you're going to do regular content from here on out, we'd love to have you on our Discord channel, giving you your own tab so you can promote, you can talk about your show, you can talk about whatever you want. This is exciting for me because I want to be involved in the hockey card community, and this is the best place to be involved with it. Where you can see this new tab is on the Hockey Cards Gong Show Discord page. To join this page, all you need to do is spend about $5 a month through Patreon, and this will give you access to the Discord page. Now, on the Discord, there's a lot of great tabs on there. There's a lot of great people on there. There's a lot of great hockey card content on there. I highly encourage you to be involved in this if you're not. What I will be doing or providing is simply a tab where I will have my shows on there. I will have different topics we will discuss on the Discord. Again, just an open conversation, but it's in the stratosphere of the Hockey Cards Gong Show. I'm honored that he asked me to be part of this. I look forward to providing a lot of content, as well as hearing from a lot of great people, not only on that Discord, but who also listen to this show as far as where we should take this show moving forward. So again, thank you to Josh and all the boys over at the Hockey Cards Gong Show for the consideration. Hopefully, I don't let you down. Okay, now let's get into our podcast today. What will we be discussing in today's podcast? Well, one of the first things we're going to do is I'm going to share two scenarios where I bought a card and then I sold it. And I want to go through each one of them to show you that there are wins and there are losses when it comes to buying and selling cards. Then I want to talk about what we kind of teased at the very beginning. Do you have a problem selling cards? I have some points that maybe you want to consider, and maybe you need to change the way you think and look at selling your hockey card. Our third segment, we're going to take a look at 3 21-year-old NHL stars and whether or not we should be investing in them. And then at the very end, we're going to play a little game, which I think you'll enjoy. So that's what we have in store for today's episode. So let's start off with 2 cards that I purchased and what happened to them. So a little story as far as the journey of both of these cards.
Buying and selling story time. How did I do?
The first card I want to talk about is I had a Dominic Kubalik rookie patch auto of the Cup. So 2019. Dominic Kubalik is probably one of my worst investments that I ever made. See, back in 2019, 2020, when, I was getting back into the hobby, one of the players that I happened to research or heard some information about was Dominic Kubalik. Now, at the time, he was playing for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, back in 2019, 2020, the Blackhawks were playing pretty well. This is pre-Connor Bedard. So Dominic Kubalik was a young player that I really invested in because I believed that he would be a really great player. I know he wasn't a number one type of line guy, but I thought he'd be a middle six guy. I thought he had potential. I thought he had skills. Boy, did I think wrong. Okay, well, let me talk about the card. So 2019, Dominic Kubalik, rookie patch auto of the Cup, and it was numbered out of 149. Back then, I bid on it on eBay. I won the bid for roughly, you ready for this? $100 US or 130 Canadian. So $100 I paid for a Dominic Kubalik, the Cup rookie patch auto out of 149. Well, as you all probably know, and probably as you're kind of getting over the laughter as far as how much I paid for it and who the player was, this card basically sat in my possession up until I'd say about a month ago. Originally listed it for about $150, thinking it's just going to go up in value, right? That's how this works. Well, COVID came. Then his play decreased. Then he was no longer on the Blackhawks. So here I am with a card that I paid a lot of money for, and now I cannot move it. I tried trading it. I tried knocking down the price. It went from my asking price, and it would just go down, down, and down, and down. Well, how much did that card sell for, you might be thinking to yourself? The card recently sold for $24.99 US. Talk about a loss. I lost essentially $75 on that card. It sat in my possession for years and I couldn't move it. So there's an example, my friends, of you don't win all the time.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Sometimes more times than not, it happens quite regularly. These are things you need to be aware of. So this is why I'm sharing this with you. It's because you hear me talk about things you might say to yourself, okay, you just had an episode talking about influencers who never show you losses. How many influencers do you know talk about losing over $100 on a card that sat in their possession since the year 2019? So there's your transparency, people. It hurts to share, but I think it's a lesson we all need to learn. There are times where your prospecting won't pay off. This was one of those times for me. So Dominic Kubalik, big loss as far as my investing strategy. I don't want to talk about just losses all the time, so I'm going to counterbalance this with a win now. Right about the time when the playoffs were starting, I went to a card show. The card shows around me don't usually have a lot of tables with hockey. So at this particular card show, there was literally, out of 80 tables, there were 2 tables that had hockey. Well, one of them in particular had bargain bin boxes that I was going through because really there was nothing else to look at the show. He had some really good cards in there. And one of the cards I came across at the time was a Jakob Dobes, so the goaltender of the Canadian. And it was a Violet Pixel OPC rookie card out of $2.99. Now, I'm a sucker for OPC Platinum. I'm a sucker for shiny things, and I'm a sucker for numbered shiny things. So this card really kind of caught my eye. Now, at the time, I was thinking, okay, what can I do with this card? Well, the playoffs are starting. This is before Montreal made the run. So I said, you know what? He has an asking price on there of $15. Well, I was able to get it for $10. And my thought process was, I'm going to take a shot. Maybe Montreal does well. when that happens, this is going to be the guy in net. And for $10, I don't think I'm really risking that much. So I bought the card for $10 along with a bunch of other cards. That's why I was able to get a decent deal. Flash forward as time went on in the playoffs, you saw what this guy was doing in net. So after about a week of holding the card, I put it up on eBay for an insane asking price. I saw they were selling for about $40. So I put it on there for $59.99 US. Wouldn't you know it? I'd say about 3 hours after listing that card, someone made me an offer for $55. I clicked accept, and I walked away making a nice $45 profit. So there's a really good example of something we're going to talk about in the next segment. When do you let go of a card? When is it okay to take a loss on a card? When is it okay? How long do you need to hold on to it? What's the thought process behind it? This one was an easy one. I just happened to catch lightning in a bottle. The Montreal Canadiens went on a hot streak in the playoffs. This guy stood on his head, almost got him to the Stanley Cup Finals, but fell just a little bit short. They're my two examples of cards that I basically won on and lost on over the past year. So this is what I'm going to be doing on a little bit more regular basis, sharing with you these stories as far as my journey goes, so you can feel my pain, or you can be happy and excited when I have a win. So there are the two cards that I thought it'd be interesting to share the journey on. Now, let's move on to an important subject, and that is selling your hockey cards or your trading card. Some thoughts that I have as far as maybe you need to look at this a little differently and change your approach.
Having problems selling your cards. Maybe you're the one making it hard to sell your cards. Maybe you're the one making it hard to sell your cards. Maybe you're the one making it hard.
What if I told you that loving hockey cards too much is costing you hundreds of dollars? That's a pretty interesting statement. We all love cards, but when it comes to buying and selling or flipping cards, we're talking again about ROI, return on investment. With that thought in mind that we'll be thinking about ROI, I thought it would be good to shed some light on what I consider the single hardest part of the sports card hobby. Now, it's definitely not finding a card in today's market. It's not haggling at a card show as far as price or maybe a trade you're trying to work out. It's definitely not guessing who the next big rookie is going to be. It's knowing exactly when to click sell or accept offer when it comes to selling your card. Now, as collectors, our brains are wired against us. The second a card enters our personal collection, we might fall into this loss aversion. I'm going to explain what this means very shortly. Most of us want to hold on to a card or have a card and we want to get max profit out of it. Or maybe we convince ourselves that the player's market will always recover or he'll always shoot back to the moon as far as his value goes. Sports cards, especially the market, doesn't care about your feelings or my feelings on a certain topic, like we just said. Definitely doesn't care about the team or player loyalty or what your projections are. It is reality, and we need to look at it in such a way. Today, I really want to break down just some cold, hard, psychological things to think about when it comes to selling your cards. Now, I want to explore potentially 3 warning signs when a player's price may be in the beginning of a hard tank. I also want to look into the real-life math of how guys start out as a high prospect or someone that we all want to get, but then how it traps thousands of investors when they simply refuse to sell or fold when all signs point to a loss. So for the next 10 to 15 minutes, why don't you put your fandom aside, and it's time to learn how to treat your cards more like cold, card inventory and to lock in on profits and stop riding your investments all the way to zero because you don't understand the signs, or maybe pride is getting into your way when it comes to selling your card. So let's start off by talking about the psychology of the hold. Now, the big question I want to pose to everyone out there is, why is buying a card exciting, but clicking accept offer feels like a defeat to you? Well, one of the psychological concepts that I mentioned earlier on in the intro was a thing called loss aversion. And there's another psychological concept called endowment effect. Now, right now, everybody's looking at their phone going, man, what in the world is he going to do? Go down, some college course that I fell asleep in? No. We're just going to generally skim over this stuff. Loss aversion is this. It's the pain of losing is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, here's an example for you. Consider that you buy 10 hockey cards. Now, when you buy these 10 hockey cards, you then go on to sell all 10 of them. But in that formula, you sell 8 that you make profit on. I'm not saying sky high profit, but you make profit on. But on 2 of them, maybe you sell them for less than you paid for them, or trade them for less than you paid for them. Loss aversion is you will put more stock or more feeling into the 2 losses than you do the 8 wins. The losses feel stronger to you than the wins. That essentially is what loss aversion is. Other thing we talked about was endowment effect. And that is a psychological bias where people value things more highly merely because they own it or it's in their possession. So an example of this is, let's say you buy a card at $100 for a particular player. Now, as you hold on to that card, that market starts to go down. You see it going down. You don't take any action. You hold firm. Now, let's say that market goes really down. So if you paid $100 for the card and now people are offering you, say, $20, do you look at it and say, no, I'm not going to do that because I paid $100 for it. I don't care what the market is. It's worth $100 to me because that's what I paid for it. So in other words, we're putting a value on that card that's personal to us, even though the market is telling us something different. Loss aversion, endowment effect. 2 things you really want to be careful of when it comes to your thought process of selling cards. Now, another thing you want to be careful of is the fandom or paid price trap. Now, loving a team or a player too much when it comes to buying a card and then flipping it could blind you and maybe even blind you to warning signs that are hitting you square in the face. One thing you want to do when it comes to this is we all want to buy at the right price, right? You want to make sure that you're buying a card that you think is at least at comps, if not a little bit under it, and then have a good strategy as to what this card's going to do in your mind in the near future. So that's something we all want to do. Now, another thing when it comes to the fandom or paid price trap is you got to be careful that you're not buying during a hype period. For instance, we're going through one right now with Macklin Celebrini. Right now, everybody's looking at this kid as he is the next greatest hockey player on the face of this planet. Am I saying you're wrong? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that it's inconclusive right now. He had a great season last year. His card value is through the roof. All signs point to that he's going to be a great player, but he hasn't done it yet. Are you buying into the fact that the hype is something you're going to pay for now? Are you afraid that you're going to miss out? Are you afraid that if I don't buy that Macklin Celebrini rookie card at $2,000, it's going to be $5,000 next year and I'll never be able to get one? This is part of that fandom or paid price trap that we just got to be careful about. You want to go into any purchase where you buy it at the right price, one that you're comfortable with, you have a strategy as far as what you think that card's going to do. You need to also think of an exit strategy if it doesn't go the way you think. You don't want to get caught in the loss aversion or the endowment effect. Planning ahead is part of it. Don't buy hype. Hype kills profit sometimes. There are 3 considerations about selling, especially when it comes to key moments in the card's history. One of those things you need to consider is when you buy a card and this happens. Let's say you buy a player, his card, rookie card, whatever it is, and then an injury occurs. Or how about this? What if that player starts going into a slump? He's not producing statistically. Ask yourself, how do you handle a major injury? Or how would you handle a major slump statistically? Do you sell immediately before or during the panic? Let's say the report comes out, this player's injured, he's missing a few games. Is your thought process dump, sell now? Is your thought process, well, let's see what the information is. Let's see how long he's out, what the severity of the injury is. Or is your thought, well, I'm going to hold it and just pray that his value goes up, that he gets in rehab quick and he's back on the ice even quicker, back to his original form. These are things you need to consider when they happen. You just don't want to buy a card, or I should say, you don't want to have a card in your possession when this happens that you have no plan for. Education is going to be the key here. You want to consider, what are all the talking heads saying as far as the injury goes? Has any other players gone through this type of injury, and how did they come out the other side of it? As far as slumps go, we can never predict a slump or when they're going to pull themselves out of it. So that just may be a situation where you put your hands together, pray to the hockey gods above that they get this guy out of it. But either way, you need to make sure that you consider this when you're looking at a card. Next, you want to consider is, what if a player is coming off a great season effect? Meaning they've won awards, and the thought process is, next year, they'll do even better. This is something else that a lot of people buy cards with the thought that they will be better next year. Now, in each one of these scenarios, we're going to have examples, but there's one more thing I want to talk about. And this is what everybody does. I do it. Everybody does this. And that is the next hot rookie. As we mentioned, Macklin Celebrini is the hot rookie right now. Reason for that is he's got the most fanfare right now. His popularity is through the roof. His performance on the ice last year was at peak performance. The fan popularity through the roof right now. Not only for just San Jose Shark fans, but hockey card fans as a whole. Do you get caught in the, I paid or I got this guy for this price, and as the price goes up a little bit, is it time to sell? Or is your thought process, it can go even higher? And when I say this, it can go higher, all I can think about is that Creed song, right? Can you take me higher?
Oh, come on, man.
But what are your 3 favorite Creed songs? I mean, Higher's got to be on that list, right? For me, it is. They're a great band. I like Creed. I'm not afraid to admit. Okay, but back to hockey cards. So again, that next hot rookie effect, how does it affect you and your thought process itself? Let's consider an example for each one of these cases. So let's look at it, the historical case studies or the evidence for each one. So case study number 1, we talked about the injury or slump scenario. Okay, if you want to know what happens when you let that endowment effect, as we talked about before, blind you about a player's medical issues, let's take a look at Nolan Patrick. Now, some of you might be going, who? What? Who's Nolan Patrick? I'm glad you asked. Nolan Patrick was a Canadian professional hockey player drafted 2nd overall by the Flyers. All signs point to this kid being a promising up-and-coming NHL star. But sadly, his NHL career was cut short by persistent, debilitating injury. He was widely cited in sports cards investing circles as a primary cautionary tale of how Medical risks and concerns can completely evaporate an athlete's card market value. What had happened is in 2018, people were paying top dollar for his Young Guns rookie card. But then he started having issues with chronic migraine as well as concussion that started to affect his ice time and his play. Now, when this happened the first couple of times, the warning signs were there for people to see. A lot of people, maybe you were one of them, decided that I'm going to hold on to his card because he's the number 2 overall pick. He's showing me signs. I know the injuries and these medical things are happening, but I think he's going to pull through. So a lot of people held on to that card while all this was going on. Even though he was a number 2 pick overall, and even though many people thought he would bounce back, he didn't. The market for him completely evaporated because he wasn't able to get back on the ice. He wasn't able to perform like he did before or like people thought he should. Consider if you didn't sell on the first or second injury report when it came to Nolan Patrick, you essentially rode a $150 card all the way down to $2 value. See, there's a good example of why you really want to pay attention to the signs and really do your research as far as what this injury is. Can he work through it? Is there a history of people working through it? Is it realistic that it can happen? This is why you can't be married to your inventory because you thought, here we go, the endowment effect, you thought it would turn around and the value would definitely come back. Now let's move on to case study number 2. And that was the flash in the pan prospect or the hype. Now, unlike Macklin Celebrini, there was a player that came out in the 2020-21 season who had all the people talking that he was going to be the next greatest thing. This was happening during COVID. Many of us were tuned into this, maybe even some people who were new to the hobby. And that was the Alexis Lafreniere preseason hype. Now, the trap was driven by intense pandemic-era sports cards demand. So during that time period, you recall, everyone was going crazy. I mean, you remember what that market was. People were way overpaying for things because, hey, we were all home, we were all bored, and Alexis Lafreniere was a great card to get during that time period. You'll recall that his Raw Young Guns card was selling for sometimes between $200 to $300 US. And this was 2 months before he even stepped out in an NHL game. What happened to Alexis Lafreniere? In his first season, things didn't go too well for him, you recall. He had a very slow start. The season didn't come around. Again, playing in the bubbles. It was a weird time. So I can understand why it would be hard for a rookie to get acclimated during that time period. The next season came, and he didn't really perform the way people thought. He was more of a third-line guy who would contribute, but not like a number 1 overall pick should contribute in a lot of people's mind. Now, you look at it throughout the history of that card, it's had moments where it's increased because he did make a nice little playoff push, or it's just that the Rangers made a playoff push one year, and he had a good playoff run. But still, you're not selling that Lafreniere card for anywhere near $200 to $300. I mean, I think nowadays you can get a raw version of that for like $20. So the lesson here is this is a textbook definition of prospect premium. Sellers who cashed out in late 2020 won big, meaning you ripped one of his cards and sold it for $150, $200. Heck, if you sold it for $300, I mean, you still have to be dancing today in 2026. Those who held on to that card just watched it go down and down and down, never selling, thinking it's going to come back. He's the number 1 overall pick. They were wrong. Look at the redemption arc. Because Lafreniere was the number 1 draft pick, he eventually, like we said, found his footing. The value did go up during that playoff run. Did you sell at that point, or did you think it's going to go higher? Many people chose to hold, thinking he would go even higher after that playoff push, and wah, it actually went back down. So there's another example of that pre-season rookie hype trap. Next, our last example we'll consider is the one about he won awards this past season. He's only going to go up in value next season. The player we're going to talk about is Matty Beniers and his Calder Trophy hangover. Matty Beniers' Young Guns PSA 10 peaked around $250 as he locked up that 2023 Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. He had a decent year playing for the Kraken. Unfortunately, he had a severe sophomore slump. The following season drained collectors' confidence, sending that card value down. On a PSA 10, sometimes you could get one for under $40 US, and nowadays it's stabilized around $50 to $60 US. So he won the award, people invested in him, drove that price up, and then he didn't come through in the second year. Awards should be an automatic sell signal to most people. The award has already priced out the card's value or pushed that card's value even higher than really it should be at times because there's hype surrounding it. Now, once the trophy's handed out and that hype evaporates, now the player has to perform again. And that player is instantly judged against now elite veterans or other people who have won this award, causing potentially an immediate market correction, especially if they don't come through statistically. Now, there's another side to this as far as why you can make money selling after an award is won. And I'll give you an example. Linus Ullmark, a few years ago when he was with the Bruins, he was in contention for
And the Vezina Trophy goes to...
he eventually won it. Now, back then, I was watching the Bruins, as you know, every single game, and he was playing strong. And I thought to myself, Linus Ullmark, I think he might win. So I went out and I bought 10 raw Young Guns rookie cards. Now, I got all 10 of them graded. At the time, it was $30 per card. So basically, I paid $10 per card to buy them, and then the $20 grading fee on top of it. Now, when I got the cards back, 7 of those cards were PSA 10. I mean, this was back in the day when PSA actually, I think, maybe looked at the cards and not just gave you grades based off of how many 10s came through that day. Now, when I got those 7 PSA 10s, I was selling those anywhere between $125 and $175 US. Now, imagine it if I said to myself, well, here he comes. He's in contention. I'm going to hold. Oh, look at that. He won. I'm going to hold till next year. All right, next year, not going so well. I'm still going to hold. Oh, look at that. They're going to trade away Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators. That's okay. He's with a good team. I'm going to hold. Today, you can get a Linus Ullmark PSA 10 for about $50 US. So what I'm telling you here, sometimes you need to strike when the iron's hot and be happy with what you're getting at that time. You don't want to have the casino effect, meaning you go into a casino and let's say you make a bet and you win $100. You're not going to keep winning because the longer you sit there, the casino knows their odds increase every minute you sit at a table. Same holds true when it comes to hockey cards. None of us can predict the future. None of us can predict what's going to happen to a player or a team or anything. So we can just rely on the information in front of us at that moment. With that, let's talk about exit strategies. Basically, some steps maybe you can consider that might help you to get out of cards or sell cards at the proper time and not get stuck in all these traps we mentioned before. Number one is you want to set target goals as far as each card that you sell. You want to establish a strict sell rule before you buy, especially. So the example is you want to think to yourself when you're looking at a card, I can buy this card at, let's say, $100. In my mind, if this card hits $150, I'm selling. It's worth it to me for that point. You don't want to say, well, I paid $100 for it. I'll sell when it reaches $300, even $200, right? Double your money. If it happens, that's a beautiful thing. But you can't rely on that time in and time out. You need to set realistic criteria. Don't get into the idea of I paid $50 for it and I will only sell it if it's $500 coming back. So definitely set target goals, realistic ones. Next, you want to take the win. People, remember, profit is profit. Leaving 10% of future growth on the table for the next buyer is better than riding a card to zero. If you buy a card for $10 and someone offers you $13, $14, take the win. Unless you have some strong evidence that's going to be worth more than that. Money in hand is better than money that you don't have in hand. I know that's a pretty stupid thing I said, but you understand what I'm saying. Take the win whenever you can. You want to move product. That's the goal. You don't want to sit on it and just watch it go up to a point, and then, like we've seen in other examples, the bottom falls out, and now you're just stuck with a draw of useless, worthless hockey cards that you're in the hole for now. Then you want to embrace liquidity. Now, sometimes you may need to pivot from a stagnant player into a more valued asset, if you would, or I should say, or undervalued asset. So the idea is, if you have a player or a card that's just not working for you, sometimes you may need to take a loss to move on from that card, whether it's selling it for less than you paid for it or making a trade where you're giving up more just to, again, move cards out of your possession. You always want the idea that things need to be moving. If you've been holding on to a card, like I've talked to you before about Dominic Kubalik, if I wanted to hold that card until I got my money back, that card would still be sitting in my drawer right now. And who knows if I even would have got the $25 that was offered to me. I may have gotten $5 or $10. I had to say, you know what? It's time. I lost. Time to move on. Sometimes you need to embrace the fact that throw up the white flag. I lost on this deal, but learn from it. Think about what you did, your thought process, what you paid for it. Learn lessons, and that's how you will not make similar mistakes in the future. Another thing to consider is sometimes, as we mentioned, trading is a good way to move on from a card or a player. But again, you may have to give up more in that deal just to get it to move on. So there's a couple of things you can consider when it comes to an exit strategy and selling cards. So the takeaway from all this is, if you're someone who's concerned about ROI, not just collecting and having cool cards, but you want to make money on things you bought, you need to remember you're running a hobby business. You're not running a museum. So if you want to fund your personal collection or you want to make profit, not saying disgusting profit, but profit, nice little margins where you make a little bit of money. And when the big wins happen, yay to you. But they're not going to happen all the time. You need to treat your investment cards like cold, hard inventory. Your thought process should be, everything needs to move. It's just a matter of what level it needs to move at. If you have a new card that you paid for and the market's stagnant and maybe you want to hold it, that's fine. But you need to have an exit strategy. If you had a card that you paid whatever for and now that market is nowhere near that anymore and now people are offering you a lot less for it, sometimes you need to take that to move on, learn from it, go through all the steps, see maybe where you can improve, and that's how you will make better decisions in the hobby. Everything needs to move if you're concerned about ROI. So at the end of all this, the closing quote is simply this: it's better to sell a year too early for a small profit than a day too late for a big loss. So there's just some of my thoughts as far as selling, and maybe things you want to consider, warning flags, whatever the case may be. Just be sure that you're not getting stuck in those factors that we mentioned before, where you're getting stuck with loss aversion or the endowment effect. That'll just make your collecting, or I should say your flipping journey, just a little bit more difficult.
We interrupt this program for a short shout out. Hold your horses, folks, let me tell you about my card post. Yeah, that's the spot. Buying, selling, trading cards, you want a lot. Low fees or none at all. Friendly folks standing tall. So many cards, it's wild to see. You may start browsing, then accidentally need three. Go check out my card post. My card post. Go check out my card post. Sponsor of this podcast. Buy, sell, trade all day. It's the card parade. Go check out my card post. My card post.
We talked about selling cards. Now let's talk about potentially some players that you might want to consider investing in. And your thought is, well, how do I know if they'll be good investors? Usually in the NHL world, when a player hits about 21 or 22 years of age, that's when they kind of make that jump as far as their overall play. They understand the game. They're more acclimated to it. And that's statistically when you see a lot of these younger players, especially nowadays, make a jump. Well, I thought that's what we could do today is let's take a look at 3 21-year-old players. Let's talk about their investment potential. So what I'll do is I'll go through 3 players. I'll give you some basic stats and basically look at why we should invest, why we want to be a little cautious. So the first 21-year-old player that we're going to talk about is Adam Fantilli of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, Adam is currently 21 years old. He plays center. He's 6'2". He's about 205 pounds. Now, his 2025-26 stats where he played in 82 games, where he had 24 goals, 35 assists, for 59 points. So a .72 points per game. So under 1 point per game for last season. Now, for his career, he's played in 213 games where he has 67 goals, 73 assists for 140 points. So again, under a point per game. If we're looking at his Young Guns rookie card in PSA 10 format, currently that card has a pop count of 1,500. That's a very nice round number. Don't you agree? And they're selling on average for about $110 US or $150 Canadian. See, I haven't forgotten about my Canadian friends. I'm going to do the conversion for it. So let's look at maybe some reasons why this card value could grow in this upcoming season. First off, Adam Fantilli is a franchise centerpiece. Fantilli has made himself, or I should say he is the cornerstone center for the Blue Jackets. I think there's no argument there. He was drafted high. They believe in him. He's got a lot of skills, showing actually an aggressive step forward in his production like last year. His physical play is picked up, and he's starting to show top-tier elite speed. These are all things that us eggheads look at. Now, with this upcoming season, he's going to have plenty of opportunities. Now, you've heard me talk about this, that players I like to consider are players that have opportunities, meaning they're on the ice a lot. They're on the ice in key situations. That's when good things happen for them. And I think that's going to happen with Adam Fantilli. I definitely think he's a first-line player, right? He's going to center the first line for them. I think next year, if everything holds true, he'll be playing alongside of Valery Nikushkin, as well as potentially Kirill Marchenko, if Kirill decides to stay in Columbus. The other part of that scenario is Fantilli will definitely be seeing first-line power play time, playing with those two players, as well as with Zach Werenski on a regular basis. Those are some great players that you can play with to help get your stats up. And Fantilli doesn't really need that much help because he's a very talented player. but it helps when you've got other people that can help you score goals or make you get points because they're scoring. Another value upside is he offers a high ceiling option at a fraction of the cost of some NHL number one centers. Look around the league. There's a lot of number one centers, PSA Young Guns 10, that are going for much more than $110. Coach Rick Bowness is a coach that can get the most out of his players, and maybe this will help Adam Fantilli to take the next step. So there's some reasons why I think it could grow. Now let's look at the risks. The first thing is, this is no slight to you Columbus Blue Jacket fans, but the Columbus market, I think, offers a discount in the trading card world. What I mean by that is players in smaller medium markets, like Columbus, generally see a price discount compared to those playing, say, for an original six team or massive hockey market, like Toronto, New York, Montreal. They hold premium because of the name on the front of their jersey and the cities that they are in, whereas a Columbus maybe has a smaller market. Not saying it's a strong market, but it's going to be a smaller one. Next, you want to consider injury and performance risk. Now, Fantilli has had some issues with injuries in the past. Nothing majorly severe, but something you got to keep in mind that he has had them early on in his career. Also, from a performance standpoint, he's under 1 point per game on average. Is that something that concerns you? Do you think he can turn that around? Again, these are all things you want to consider. Now, lastly, we talked about the coach, Rick Bowness, right? He has been known to get his players to perform for him, but at the same time, is the coach's game plan a fit for Adam Fantilli's game? Let's say Bowness decides to be more of I want to concentrate on defense first rather than, let these guys just go and fly high offensively. So again, just something to consider as far as his card value goes. So when it comes to the conclusion of this, with everything in his statistical profile, the underlying numbers, the growth in those numbers, the defensive growth that he's shown, and the sheer scale of his overall talent, I think points towards a player on the verge of a breakout season. I feel like he's met my eye test as well. I've watched him play a number of games, and when I watch him, he always stands out to me as a player that's on the up and up. The foundation's there. The process is there. The low price point off of his skill set is there. He has opportunities. So what kind of investment grade would I give to Adam Fantilli? On a school time grading scale, I would give him a B+. I have a lot of faith that he will increase in value, but I also have some areas where I want to be a little cautious. So there we go. We're started off with Adam Fantilli with a B+ grade that we have confidence in him, but we want to be cautious. Next, let's talk about the Philadelphia Flyers star. I'm not talking about Porter Martone, I'm talking about Matvei Michkov. Now, Michkov is also 21 years old. He plays either wing position. He's 5'10", and he weighs about 180 pounds. Now, in 2025-26, he played in 81 games, where he had 20 goals, 31 assists for 51 points, .63, under a point per game. And his career stats, 161 games played, 46 goals, 68 assists for 114 points. You know what I was going to say next, but I'm not going to say it. Now, if you're looking at Michkov's PSA Young Guns in 10 format, his pop count currently sits at 1,407 of those. Not the nice round 1,500 that Fantilli was, but still close. And currently they're selling on average for about $160, 220 Canadian. Michkov's PSA 10 Young Gun rookie card is, I'd say, a high upside bet if you feel that he's an elite game-breaking talent who possesses rare offensive flair. And those are the type of people or players that demand true hobby premium pricing. So is he actually one of those guys? because right now his card's saying that he might be. If we look at him as an elite rookie as far as his production goes, Michkov made an instant impact by logging 81 games in his initial season. That's a plus. He did have 20 goals and 31 assists. Again, decent. He proved that his instincts for creativity on the ice were at a higher level. Again, that eye test. When he was out there, he really could make things happen. Now, on top of that, we talked about market. Philadelphia is one of those places that has a market premium. Unlike prospects hidden away in small media markets, Michkov plays for the Flyers, who have a large, passionate, and historic East Coast fan base. And that means that his card value automatically enjoys almost like this built-in baseline, highly localized demand and is very liquid, right? I'm sure if you go to card shows in Philadelphia, you are going to see 1,000 of these cards and they're just going to be moving consistently. So the market that he's in definitely helped. It's thought that this upcoming season, Michkov will play on the second line. There's a chance that he may be on the third line. So it's something you want to just keep an eye on. But if he plays on that second line, he's going to have the potential to put up some points with the players he will be playing with. He's expected to be a focal point on the top power play. On the second line, it looks like, but he's playing alongside Trevor Zegras, who, again, another young star with a lot of talent. So there's a couple of reasons why I think he's going to increase in value. Next, though, let's consider some of the risks. It's his second year, so we ought to talk about the sophomore slump risk. Opposing coaches on other teams have an entire season of NHL film to watch on Michkov's tendencies, what he likes to do, how he reacts in certain situations. If his production in the sophomore year starts to slow down or get stagnant, his market values could bleed as collectors pivot hard to the next incoming draft class or the next hot player. See, that's the problem with today's market. A lot of people don't want to hold on to a card. They want to get that newest, hottest rookie. They want him to perform and they want to sell at profit. When that doesn't happen, they move on very quickly and you could be left holding the bag. Now, another thing that needs to be a concern is Michkov needs to correct some of his past mistakes. Now, Michkov openly admitted that entering last year's training camp, he was out of shape. We saw that, and it hindered his early season stamina. Even the coaching staff acknowledged that. There were times where he wasn't on the ice. His skating decreased. He just wasn't the player that we all thought he would be. He needs to come into this year in shape, motivated, ready to go, to prove that he's a real talent in the NHL. Can he do that? We shall see. Another thing to consider is what I like to call the Rick Tocchet factor. His relationship with the coach will be very closely watched in the offseason, in camp, and as the season starts up. Now, having learned the hard way about defensive accountability, Michkov needs to be a more disciplined two-way version of what Rick Tocchet wants to see. Rick Tocchet is a coach that will hold you to, I don't care where you were drafted, I don't care what your name is. You don't play, you sit. So he needs to, again, kind of get things going early. He needs to be committed to being full, complete 200-foot NHL player. And this is what will gain Tocchet's favor. This will get him out on the ice more and more. But let's see if that happens. Consider this too. He is entering in the final year of his contract. And sometimes players will play above and beyond maybe what they are because they're playing hard for the contract. We shall see. If he comes out firing early and continues through the year, maybe that's part of the reason, or maybe he's finally learned how to be an NHL player. So the conclusion is, when we're looking at Michkov, you want to tread cautiously. I believe he has all the talent in the world, but there are some red flags that we need to be concerned with, especially at the $160 price point. So my investing grade when it comes to him is C+. I don't think he's average, but I think he's a little bit above that. But it's all going to be determined on what he does in this upcoming season. Okay, so we have one more player to consider in our 21-year-old ranking, or I should say overview of, are we going to invest in any of these guys? The last player we'll consider is Will Smith of the San Jose Sharks. Now, Will Smith is 21. He's played center as well as right wing. He's 6 foot tall and about 180 pounds. Now, in 2025-26, his stats were he played in 69 games, where he had 24 goals, 35 assists, for 59 points, and a .86 point per game. Now, his career stats are he's played in 143 games, and he has 42 goals, 62 assists for 104 points. So in both scenarios, under a point per game player. Now, currently, PSA 10 Young Guns card has a pop count of only 774 and is selling on average for about $230 US or $317 Canadian. All right, let's talk about Will Smith now. Now, Will Smith was taken 4th overall in the 23 draft. And Will Smith, I think, possesses what I like to call a rare combination of elite playmaking ability as well as a high hockey IQ. That makes him a legitimate hobby darling. When you contribute, or when you have two of those factors, there's a lot of players in the league that have both of those, and their card values reflect that. What are some reasons why we should invest in him, or why we think it's a good thing to invest in? Well, potentially we talked about sophomore slumps. How about we talk about elite sophomore trajectory? Now, after a strong rookie season, Will Smith took an aggressive step forward, especially during the 2025-26 regular season, because he shifted from center to wing. And this helped him to rack up an impressive, as we said, 24 goals and 59 points. His underlying analytics rank in the 90th percentile for slot shot volume and cross-seam passing execution. What that nerd jargon basically means is this kid knows how to finish in the slot, and he has a very good eye as far as those cross-seam passes. And we saw that a number of times through the season where sometimes he made a pass where it's like, how in the world did he even see that guy over there? When you look at players, you want to look at sometimes some of the nerd analytics and see where they rank. And if they rank in the upper echelon of those statistics, that's a good sign for a player you actually want to invest in. The other thing you want to consider is simply the Celebrini effect multiplier. So Will Smith shares a locker room and has chemistry with a franchise superstar, and that's Macklin Celebrini. Now, playing alongside a generational center like Macklin on line 1, as well as top power play, gives Will Smith a massive advantage and draws a lot of national media exposure, especially when Macklin Celebrini does well. He's playing with an elite talent, both on a number 1 line and on a power play. I mean, here's your opportunity for you. Now consider the fact that the San Jose Sharks made a nice jump last year, almost making the playoff. They're right on the doorstep, but they kind of faded. Hopefully they learn from it. And with the people they've added this year, maybe that'll push them into a playoff run where someone like Will Smith will be one of those guys that everybody watches. He's an offensive talent. He ranks high in some of those nerdy statistics that we talked about. He's playing with potentially the next great player in the NHL on first line as well as on power play. The team's on an upward swing. These are all nice signs to consider buying his rookie card. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. How about he moved from center to wing? Will Smith, when he was in Boston College, he mostly played center. But last year he moved to the wing. That move to the wing makes it easier, less responsibility for a player, but it also takes away some of the spotlight. I think when you look at players' values, as we said before, number one centers or high-end centers demand a little bit more premium than, say, some wingers do. This is something you want to consider. If he's going to be now a winger moving forward, just something you want to keep in the back of your mind. Opposing teams now have extensive videotape on Will Smith and what his tendencies are. He's not going to get away with, oh, we didn't expect him to do that type of thing. Players watch tape. Players know what majority of your tendencies are before you even think about it. Unless you're someone like Mario Lemieux or Jaromir Jagr. Most people watch enough tape to understand that, when I see him do this, means he's going to do that. So this is something that you also want to take into account. How about the fact that he's going to have some new players on his team, veteran players, players like Mason Marchment, Jacob Trouba, and Darnell Nurse. Does this new veteran presence cause any kind of adjustment in his game? Don't know. Don't know what the locker room's going to be like. I mean, you can't say that Celebrini and Will Smith are running that locker room, right? They don't know how to yet. The Sharks brought in these players for that very reason. They need that veteran presence. But sometimes with veteran presence comes responsibilities on rookies that they're not ready for on the ice. So again, just something to consider. How about the fact that they also have Colin Graff on that team? What if he surges? What if he surges to the point to where maybe he's playing with Celebrini in certain situations? Now, taking Will Smith out of that equation, I mean, is he going to be good enough to stand on his own and play outside of the Macklin Celebrini world? If he can, his value will hold. If he can't, his value will suffer. So in conclusion, even though you're paying a high price for his card now, but if you believe the Sharks are an up-and-coming team that have a really nice mix of youth and veteran talent, now's the time to jump in on. Now, as far as a grade, when it comes to Will Smith, what am I giving him? Here's our first A of the year. I like Will Smith. I like Will Smith a lot. I like his offensive prowess. I like what I've seen through my eye test. I like the idea that team's coming up, right? Up and coming, the Sharks. The West Coast market is also starting to pick up because of guys like Celebrini, because of guys like Leo Carlson, Cutter Gauthier. I think Will Smith is in that discussion too. And oh, by the way, Will Smith right now has the Macklin effect. And anything it seems like that kid touches turns to gold, especially when it comes to hockey cards. There are the three players who are 21 years of age that do it with this information as you will. But again, do your own research. If you're going to invest in these players, understand why you want to. Don't just do it because I say so, or maybe you see other people doing it. You need to have confidence in what you're buying. So do you have confidence in Adam Fantilli or Matvei Michkov or Will Smith? Let me know. You go to the Instagram page at Top Shelf Cookie Sniper or to the Discord at the Hockey Cards Gong Show. You can leave me a message. Let me know what you think about any one of these players. How do you feel they're going to do? Do you have different grades than I do? Do you feel they're going to do something different? Let me know one way or another on whether or not these are good investments for 21-year-olds or maybe why they're not. So to close out today's episode, I thought we could have a little fun. There's a website out there called 84 and 0. What that is, if you don't know, is it's essentially a randomizing pick a player type of game. The thought behind it is this. You hit the button and you have 6 rounds. What they do is they show you a team and either an era or a year, and then the players associated with that team. Your mission, if you choose to accept, is to pick 6 players that are on each one of these different teams and eras. And what they do is they run the stats through, and based off the players you pick, can you get to the 84 in host season? Let me give you an example. So the first thing may come up, it might say, Boston Bruins, the 2000. And then they give you a list of a bunch of players. and you have to pick one to fill a position: center, right wing, left wing, 2D, and goal. Now, once you make a pick and that position's filled, you can't pick anybody else for that position. So let's get into it real quick and let's have a little fun and see how we do. So I'm going to start off by hitting random. And so our team is the Detroit Red Wings, and the year is the 1960s. So here are the players I can choose from: Gordie Howe, Norm Ullman, Roger Crozier, Frank Mihaljevic, Alex Del Vecchio, and Bill Gatz. So I think this is a pretty easy choice. It's either between Frank or Gordie Howe. I'm going to take Gordie Howe at right wing. So my right winger is Gordie Howe. Right? The next team is the Columbus Blue Jackets, funny enough, and it's from the 2010s. So from 2010 to 2019. Players I can choose from: Bobrovsky, Panarin, Ryan Johansson, Jack Johnson, Rick Nash, Seth Jones, and Zach Werenski. This one's tough because you got Bobrovsky, who's elite. Panarin, he can put points on the board. You also got Zach Werenski. I think for this one, I'm going to go Zach on D. I like the puck-moving defenseman, but hopefully I get someone else on another team that's more stay-at-home defenseman to round out. Okay, round number 3. I can choose from the Quebec Nordiques and from the 1990s. So my choices are Joe Sakic, Valery Kamensky, Mike Ricci, Matt Sundin, Steve Duchesne, and Stéphane Fisset. I mean, this is a tough one. I think it's between Sakic and Matt Sundin. I think I'm going to go with Matt Sundin at center. So right now I have Matt Sundin at center, Gordie Howe at right wing, and Zach Werenski on D. Round 4. My choice is the New York Islanders from the 2000s. Now my choices are going to start to get a little bit more limited because I have positions filled. So I can choose between goalie Ilya Sorokin, Ryan Polak, Noah Dobson, and Anders Lee. See, this is where this game gets a little tough. Other choices I had were Barzal, Brock Nelson, Bo Horvath, but those positions are filled. So now I have to pick between one of these 4. I mean, I could go with the goalie, but what if a better goalie comes along? I could go with the defenseman, but again, what if a better defenseman comes along? Noah Dobson's not really a good stay-at-home defenseman. Well, I guess I gotta go with the goalie and Sorokin and hope that works out. Round 5, I have 2 picks left. For round 5, I get to pick from the Blackhawks in the 1990s. I can pick between Chris Chelios, Michel Goulet, Gary Suter, and Steve Smith. I think this is a no-brainer. I'm gonna go with Chris Chelios. All right, last one. So it's my left winger, and it is the New Jersey Devils of the 2020s, and I can choose between Palat and Jesper Bratt. All right, Louis, who should I pick here? Nico Hischier is not on the list, but Jesper Bratt is, so I'm going to take him. Now, once your lineup is full, so my lineup right now is at left wing, Jesper Bratt, center, Matt Sundin, right wing, Gordie Howe, defense, Zach Werenski, defense, Chris Chelios, and goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. Now you hit simulate the season, and it tells you based off of their stats, here's what your record is, and you're trying to get to that 84-0 marker. Just to let you guys know, I play this game a lot, only hit that marker once, just once. So let's see what we get.
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Well, according to this, based off of the players I picked, my record is 71 wins, 9 losses, and 4 shootout losses. I did win the President's Trophy. I did have a lot of positive stats, but at the end, I was just a little bit short with the 9 losses and the 4 shootout losses. So there you go. We gave 84-0 a shot, and we came out with the President's Trophy and 71 wins, but it wasn't 84. So if you want to check that out, go to the website, have some fun playing some make-believe hockey GM type of randomizing game. That's the end of our episode. It was a fun episode today. I got to talk a little bit about selling and just some thoughts to kind of keep in your mind when it comes to selling, some warning signs, things you want to think about, as well as 3 players who are 21 years old who might be the next big thing. You want to be careful. Education, people. If you listen to people like me or others in this space, you have to be able to decipher what information works for you. As always, thank you so much for listening. I want to close out again just by saying thank you to the Hockey Cards Gone Show for allowing me to be part of your platform. I really look forward to contributing to it, as well as hearing from you on the platform. And even if you're not on the platform, hit me up on the Instagram page at Top Shelf Cookie Sniper. Let me know what you think of the show. In closing, as you may or may not have seen, I will be doing more Instagram videos, box rips. It's something I kind of want to get a little bit more into, and documenting them as far as, again, that return of investment. When I open a bunch of these boxes, I'm going to keep track of what I'm doing and am I making money or am I losing money? Go to the Instagram page, check it out, and you'll see if I am winning or losing when it comes to that. Lastly, I will be putting out some YouTube video content where I can show you different charts as far as players and what I'm considering. I know I don't do a video podcast. I'm old school. I like doing the vocal thing, but I will put out videos from time to time on YouTube where you can maybe see some charts or things that I look at as far as when I'm looking at players and different things I consider that maybe don't kind of translate on a vocal podcast, but will show up better on the video format that I will put out from time to time. For the Top Shelf Cookie Sniper Hockey Card Podcast, I'm your host, Jay. As always, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you real soon.
Thank you for tuning in into the Top Shelf Cookie Sniper Hockey Card. Remember, this is not a financial advice podcast.